Hello, everybody, and welcome to This Week in X presented by Crushing Comics. We are here today to talk about New Mutants number 17. It was out on the 28th of April, 2021, and I'm here to discuss it with two of my best friends and best X-Men fans that I know around the world, Tyler and Fariha. And we're going to give you a warning, which is our spoiler warning. We're clearly going to discuss every detail of this issue, other details of the X-Men line right now, and pretty much anything Marvel is fair game. So you've been warned, it's a spoiler-filled discussion. For New Mutants 17, let's start off with our first reactions before we get into the details. Tyler, what's your initial reaction on New Mutants 17?
I mean, this issue is packed as per normal. Ayala's issues are always quite packed. And I really like it. The odd, rough scene cuts that plague Ayala's earlier issues were not present here. And it was a more smooth, free throughout without that weird jump. And Ree's arts and colors are, at his usual high standard. It's not, there wasn't a page where it was a wow page, but I thought, everything looks really good, as expected from New Mutants, even after such a long break. So, I give this a 4 potions out of 5.
Fariha?
So because of this issue, New Mutants is now my number 2 favorite of all the X series after X Factor, because this issue pretty much has everything that I have been screaming about things that are wrong in Krakoa and how it's kind of slowly manifesting out. And especially Way of X number 1 was so good that it kind of earned itself like 6 bad issues. So now after this, New Mutants have earned itself like 5 bad issues and 2 bad quota issues, like Children of Adam issues. Ayala has earned it. No, I absolutely loved it. Because it has like everything that I have been screaming about, and it's kind of very much in line with how New Mutants and this younger mutant stories usually go in other times. Like it's like a multiple storylines going together and multiple people you're seeing, and then it's all happening, and it's perfect. I thought that it was amazing. So for me, it was a 4.8. Wow. Out of 5.
Wow.
I'm really, really neutral on this issue. There are a couple of things I enjoyed. There's a couple of things that frustrated me, but I came away with kind of just a bland taste in my mouth. I think just because of this Otherworld thing, and we'll get into it, I just think it was paced weirdly. I don't think it got us as far as it maybe thinks that it got us in terms of satisfaction and closure for readers. And because I'm into what's going on in the other plots, especially with the Farouk plot, I kind of just felt like it was weirdly misshapen. And I will say, the final thing I'll just throw on is New Mutants all along has been my favorite X title, neck and neck with X Factor, even when the Brazan to Ayla switch happened. And I didn't like Brazan, but I loved it by him. And I've really enjoyed it by Ayla so far. So please don't let my neutrality intrude here. I'm just going to try to stay neutral, but offer you springboards of excitement to talk about the issue, especially Fariha, since she got so much of what she wanted. So I think even though Otherworld occupies the most of it, I want to open with the opening scene because it's significant and it moves something forward a lot from where we left off last issue, which is Wolfsbane. She's very upset. Nobody will resurrect or even quite confirm where her son Tyr is. She's kind of crying herself to sleep on bed because Dani and Xi'an are gone as well. Into this scene comes Farouk, the Shadow King. And except for not the Shadow King, it seems like everybody's kind of accepted that he's just Amahl Farouk, not necessarily the Shadow King. And they're interacting, which we've had some questions about in previous discussions. And he kind of puts an arm around her and he says, "You've got some purpose with me. You've got a friend in me." Fariha, what did you think about Shadow King just snaking Rahne in her moment of misery here?
I did not I was a Steve Carroll gif was like, nope, did not like that at all. But the thing is, it makes so much sense in this era of Krakoa, and the thing is, when he showed up and she's her eyes just opened up and then there was it was just, and I imagine he has a very deep voice with a little bit of Middle Eastern accent. That's how I imagined him. And then he was just saying all these things. It's I am doing it as a good thing. I'm good now. Especially when villains have that conviction, villains in air quote, because, everybody's
what are villains?
What are villains? But the thing is, he he believes that he's doing something good. He believes that this is the Krakoa. There's a new will of Krakoa. And I thought that the story, it's going to go in like, oh, I hate this. But it's like, no, I love this. I am embracing it. I'm giving it to the children. But I'm only one person and I need your help. Oh, I mean, and then he's doing it. He's not going and doing it to Dani. He's not doing it to like magic. He's doing it to like more like people who he can easily manipulate. And we have seen Rahne can be easily manipulated.
Yeah, she's not the mentally strongest of all of the New Mutants.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
And
not. Then she's so I mean, so that's one of the reasons it's just like so scary. And then it just like I'm like, take it away, you know. And all this time we were thinking that he's operating under the shadow, but no, he's out there, you know, and he's not in check. He's just
right. He's in full light. He's you know, he's walking right into their house. He's not lurking. Now whether or not they acknowledge that he might still be harboring the Shadow King or not is another question entirely. But in terms of just Amahl walking around, he clearly is free reign on the island.
Exactly. And then I was like, go away.
Tyler, what about you?
Go have a psychic dance off somewhere else.
Well, I mean, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, my first thought is that like this is continuation of the rehabilitation of Farouk, and possibly separating the influence of Shadow King and Farouk, and casting the shadows on some of the younger mutants. So basically, Shadow King might be say, okay, you know, I now have an entire island of mutants to influence. Why do I still need this guy here? Right? He has been a great host, but you know, now we have Rahne, we have we have No Girl, we have Rain Boy, we have
Cosmar.
Yeah, Cosma. So like, why not just, you know, start spreading the influence? Because like Farouk said, you know, he when, I mean, I don't know if that's what Ayala is playing at, but I thought it's interesting because here he sometimes, like Farouk sometimes refers to himself as himself, and then sometimes he mentioned that he's a psychic being. So I think, I mean, my read is that there might be just a mixture of like two people speaking here. So and one part of him is genuinely trying to redeem himself given the chance, and then the other part is still the Shadow King influence, you know, trying, you know, still attached to him, and still trying to spread that influence.
But I was kind of creeped out by that.
It's meant to be creeped out.
Yeah. No, I'm a psychic. So your problem is my problem. Like, you know, like you
your
are
pain.
making me out.
Your pain.
Yeah, you're bumming me out. Saying that to Rahne actually works because she is very guilt-ridden. She is very guilty. Like, you know, she's always feels very guilty about her like, you know, about her just existing.
Wait till you read her first appearances.
Oh, I don't.
She's always
to be honest, she doesn't change. X Factor, X Force onwards, and all that. So you know, it doesn't make any difference to me at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, saying that to her actually works, and he knew the right thing to say. So that's one of the reasons I want to see him speaking to another character one-on-one, and then see how he changes. Then you can tell whether he's actually evil or whether he's meant. Because everything he said to Rahne was customized to say to Rahne. And so that's why I'm not buying that he's good.
True, and also the camera angle that Reese chose to use on some of these scenes is absolutely casting him as the bad person. Like, you know, from the down up, and then he has this mustache here with that like smile and like creepy smile, and then he's a hand,
and then just walked into a woman's house and then just sit down on the bed. Like, it's like, ugh.
Yeah. Ugh. And then like looking at her like that.
Through
the shades.
Yeah. It's interesting. This escapes my neutrality a little bit because I think this scene is exactly as long and as punchy as it should be. When I react really positively to New Mutants, this is what I'm looking for. And the thing that really stuck out to me is I think something you both highlighted really well is that I don't need Rahne to always be perfect. I don't need her to always use good judgment. I don't need her to always win. I need her to act in a way that's consistent with her character that makes me realize the attachment that I've had to her all this time. And, this to me is that. Like, it's painful to watch. Like, you do not want her to walk out the door with him. She should know better. But as Fariha pointed out, it's unmistakably Rahne. And I think that that's really what I love from this New Mutants title from the beginning to this point, is that the characters really act in a way that's not idealized, that's not there to like make all of their number one fans who want them to have feats all the time happy. It's the way to make the people happy who really like care about them as characters who are fallible. And I think that tends to make me really interested in a comic book. Like, let the characters be fallible, let them be wrong, let them have errors. And that's when it's kind of the most engaging to me. And it was two pages and done. And I don't know that we needed any more. I don't know that we would have gotten anything else from this having a third page or a fourth page.
I'm just trying to can't wait for all of this to be collected so that I can read this all in one go, especially Rahne's everything that happened to her. This reads so well. And I wonder, like, if this was all in one issue, all of Rahne in one issue, how we would react.
Might be too much, maybe.
Yeah.
Might be a little too sad sack. All in one go.
So the thing is the fact that it's separated out, that it's paying off. We talked about like making women suffer just for the drama of it and stuff like that. But I mean,
it doesn't feel like that at this point, though. It feels like an actual arc and not just like suffering porn.
Right, exactly. So the thing is, like, I feel like it's going somewhere that is just not about her child. That is more about her, maybe, So I'm excited to see.
Well, now let's come to the huge chunk of the issue, and I'll try to react last because I really want to be influenced by your reactions here, and we'll start with Tyler once I get done this whole preamble. So
we'll be the Shadow King.
Yeah, you put your arm around me and go, it's okay to feel like that. It's fine to feel like that. So Dani and Xi'an are in Otherworld tracking down this mutant who went through the gate in Avalon Josh. And they're afraid that if he dies in Otherworld, he's never going to come back right. And so we've seen them kind of hop through several iterations of this. Where we last left them, they were in Merlin's prison because they got caught in his part of his slice of the pie. Yeah. And so now it's changed is that he's let them out. If they'll steal this thing from Roma, they do manage to steal the thing from Roma. It turns out to just be a sentimental thing, as Roma tells them with basically just barely clothed.
She just came out of her orgy, okay? She just barely, she just did.
And this eventually winds up with them, giving the vase back to Merlin, going and finding Josh, and learning that it's fine for Josh to be in Otherworld. Not every mutant has to play by the Krakoa rules. I'll cut off the recap there because I think there's one further development at the end of the issue that warrants its own separate talk. So let's just talk about this Otherworld slice. Tyler, what was your feeling about this whole adventure in Otherworld?
I mean, part of me was like, maybe because I just DM my first adventure last weekend for like the first time in like 30 years. So I kind of
Thanks
enjoy.
For the invite, Tyler.
So I kind. You're not going to enjoy it actually, depending on
for me to decide.
Yeah, maybe, but anyway. So I kind of enjoyed this whole magic thing with invisibility potion and the candle of truth. It did drag on a little bit, but part of what I enjoy about this whole sequence is basically just zooming into each panel, and I was like, oh, okay, what is Reese trying to draw here? Oh, what is that? What is he trying to do here? Not every panel works well if you zoom in, but like the treasure room one, I noticed the Beauty and the Beast snow rose thing in the corner. So I thought, oh, okay, that was fun. And then the reference that Ayala made to Indiana Jones when Kama says, "Oh, did I forget a bag of sand?" because when they took the thing out, it's supposed to replace by the bag of sand. And so these are the things which sort of like really funny and really cool to me. And but the payoff here actually was with Josh, because it struck a bit of resonance with me because of the whole human passing mutant versus non-human passing mutant story beat that was being done here. I know Fariha probably had a lot to say, but I'm just going to say that why it struck a really strong resonance with me was because when I was in Singapore, because of the size of the country and because I wasn't out to my parents, oftentimes I cannot be myself 100%. Like I'm still me, maybe 80%, and then the last 20% I have to sort of like contain it. So coming to New York to do my postgrad and then started to work here and live here, I could be myself 100%. I'm still me, but that last 20% that I used to contain it pretty securely, I freed it. So, I no longer have to be just 80% me. I could be 100% me. And that changes how I look at things, changes how I react to things, and changes my relationship with people whom, my classmates were like, oh, so do you have a girlfriend? And I said, no, I'm gay. I was like, oh, okay. Do you have a boyfriend? Like, without skipping a beat. There was no judgment. There was no shock. And, it's just like, it's just something. I don't care whether you like guys or girls or both, this is your life. Do whatever you want with it. And that sense of freedom and the sense of acceptance is really, really it's really good for me, because then I also learned to love myself, completely. And here, that story beat with Josh, had a similar beat to this, and that's why I feel that there's such a strong resonance to for me with respect to that.
Fariha, what do you have to say about all that and all of Otherworld?
So I actually really enjoyed the Otherworld thing. It's only because I'm like, okay, Exoswords is now making sense. Why did we spend so much time on it? Because it was explained so well, because we understood the dynamic so well. As soon as it's like, oh yeah, you have to sign the thumb here, I'm like, it makes sense, because they're going from like a pain world to a world which is a pleasure, which is all about pleasure. I'm like, it also makes sense why she showed up wearing almost nothing, because she just walked out of an orgy, One of the things I was I really enjoyed it's like kind of fantasy thing, and there's all these different elements and stuff like that. One thing I would say, though, this is the second time I saw Dani making a deal with a goddess type figure that you will show up at any time I call you. And I'm
it's one of Dani's character's flaws. She loves she loves responsibility. She loves saying like, yes, of course, I'll be there. She does it all the time.
Yeah, and then this time the Roma was calling her the pretty girl the whole time, and the way the face was, I'm like, well, what are you gonna call me for? Dani should have asked that question, because it doesn't seem like she's gonna call her for a mission. It's gonna be for a different thing. It just both of them. She's gonna call. I'm pretty sure. I know Karma would be happy, but it's just like it's just like, okay, what are you gonna call me for? But second time, that made me laugh. And then the thing is about the what Tyler was talking about, that Josh finding out who he is, and then the human passing thing. I was like it was so delicious. All of it was so delicious, and especially because the 3-step for him. So obviously, when he came out, when he became, he was saying that, oh, my family is like a liberal, but as long as it's not happening
here, as long as it's not in our house. Yeah,
he's not in our house. We know so many of those people, right? And then the thing is, it's that. So there was one layer for him that he thought that, okay, when I come to Krakoa, it's going to be different. it wasn't 100% different. And then finally, when he went to the other world, no one even looks at him unless he says hi to people. That's when people are like, "Oh, what are you doing? Just stop doing that." And he's willing to risk his
immortality
to get that. And the thing is, we talked about in Way of X, where there's other new mutants or young mutants who are like, "Let's put one in my face. I'm gonna come back. Like, just get one in my head. Like, just shoot me in the head." And I was thinking about that. I'm still looking for that other world, my other world, because when I was in Bangladesh, I was pretty much operating at a 30% level, right? And then when I came to America, I feel like I'm somewhere at 70% level. I'm still not that 100%. I'm still reaching that high where I can be who I want to be and how I want to be. And then I'm not reminded every day that, oh, you are owner of 2 breasts and a vagina. Like, it just like, so I'm still reaching that high. So the thing is, to me, I was like, when reading that, it just made me a little bit misty-eyed. It really did. Like, I was like, wow, here's this character willing to give up immortality just to feel himself.
Yeah, and because of that line that I read was like, but for the first time since then, I'm living.
Mm-hmm.
And that touched me.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it was just like, and then he was living like he was eating out a dumpster.
Yeah.
Like
when he was living in the woods, like he was like,
and then he came to, and then he went to a place where it's like bagels on a tree, and still it wasn't enough for him. Yeah. Like, I mean, that's one of the things. And I was actually kind of thinking,
I feel like it's not that it wasn't enough. It wasn't right for him.
Right.
He couldn't live by him. He couldn't live his 100% until he went into Otherworld, and then he could be 100% himself, because no one is paying attention to him, which is what he likes. He's just being him.
Exactly. I mean, and I can't wait to. I feel like the only way I'm going to get there when I'm 60, because people don't look at old women, and that's when I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I can tell weird things at young whippersnappers on the street, and then.
And then just disappear into the crowd.
Yeah, disappear into the crowd. Maybe that's when. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I got a little bit of misty-eyed at that.
I love the way that you framed it, and I think it really. I mean, I liked this Josh part all along, and I think that hearing you both talk about it that way gives it so much more dimension. The one dimension of it that I really got that is connected, I think, to some of that is generational change, and not generational change between parents and kids. That because parents and kids are actually separated by several generations, right? Like my child is like 4 generations of like exennial, millennial, after me. But even the subtle differences between those two, between people who are born in one decade and the next, because you have Xi'an and Dani here, not adults, but who are basically like, based on the difficulties we've faced in our life, based on the challenges that we've had in our life, we think that the best thing would be to be on Krakoa and not have to fear death. Because based on how we grew up, based on the bigotry that we faced, not fearing death is the panacea to all of that. And you have Josh, who's only a little bit younger than him, being like, that's not enough for me. I'm not happy being 80% just so I cannot fear death. I would rather fear death and be 100%. And it's like those two opinions don't have to ever be compatible with each other. They're each the truth of what those people generationally need because of the challenges that they experience. And it made me just reflect on my family. And, my grandparents grew up in the Great Depression. I think, I have stories about my grandmother, like living off of fruit she picked off the side of the road because they had no money at all. And my parents, being Italians in Philadelphia, when Italians were discriminated against and couldn't even get jobs. My dad has stories about that. And then my stories are different. And then my kids' stories are going to be different too, because she's growing up in New Zealand. I've created that, for her. A lot of the things that I prioritize in life are not going to be the things she prioritizes. It's the same with me and my parents and them with their parents and so on. And again, parents don't have all those individual slices between. So it's even like me giving advice now to like a 20-year-old, like my advice has no bearing on a 20-year-old. They want totally different things than me. So I just thought that this was like a really nice, subtle version of that. And I think a lot of the things you're both talking about kind of also reflect that people that were a generation earlier than you with similar identities, similar challenges than you would maybe be happy at 75% or 80% because they got some other form of safety or some other form of fulfillment. And somebody who's 10 or 20 years younger than either of you with the same identities or similar identities to you might actually be asking for something much more. And I just thought that was really fascinating. Here's my complaint though. Did we need to go to Jamie, to Merlin, to Roma to get to here and to get to the revelation that Xi'an has as a result? I don't know. I feel like a lot of those scenes here were kind of empty calories. What happened with the magic potion? Where were they fighting? Who were they fighting? I don't really know. Why did we need so many pages of Roma talking to them? What transpired there? I don't really know. So I just really feel like for every really dense scene, which Ayla does really well, like this Josh scene, there were also some pages where I was just like, what is even happening on this page? And that's where my frustration comes from. But hearing how this landed so well for all three of us in such distinct ways makes me actually kind of look a little bit past neutral and upwards on this issue, because clearly it got somewhere good. Just because an issue has 4 boring pages doesn't mean the issue didn't get you somewhere that's powerful.
I thought that all the things that was going on with Roma and everything, that it would probably get paid off when Roma calls them back.
Oh, I'm sure it will. It just felt kind of beige.
Yeah, I mean, there was also the bit, I think, Ayala was like seeding the rabbit thing as well.
Right, which we will get to in just a moment. Well, before we get to that final revelation about the rabbit and about Xi'an, we have to stop at one other plot briefly, and I'll turn the floor over to the two of you. I don't have strong opinions on it. Amahl and some of the other kids who were influenced by Amahl are still trying their consciousness swapping, and they really want to learn to better control other bodies or other things. They're trying to swap into a flower at this point. And so they come up with the bright idea that why not go to X Factor's body farm to get an already deceased mutant to try to inhabit a dead body with their consciousness. I guess because the resurrection process is under such lock and key that they can't just steal a husk from the 5. I don't know. And they decide to go to Scout to talk about this, or as we will call her, Honey Badger. And Scout is like, what are you even doing? Like she really speaks the absurdity of it back to them. Yeah. So what did you think about this development of these youths that are pushing for more ability to control and more ability to feel something other than what they feel themselves in their own bodies?
I mean, it boils back down to the same issue that we have been talking about, and Way of X have pointed out, like, clearly they need a structure for these kids. Otherwise, they're just going to run off and do things, silly things, even dangerous and, stupid things like that. And look, clearly having a resurrection protocol is not helping a lot of people, because these kids couldn't have to figure out a way to make use of like dead bodies instead of, having a husk to use. And then Cable has to think about smoking and knocking out Professor X to steal the cerebral helmet in order to resurrect someone. So clearly having a resurrection protocol is not going to solve all the problems. And I mean, and it's kind of like pointing out very clearly what is wrong with Krakoa.
Cable's problem pales in comparison with what these kids are going through. I just wanted to bring that out there.
No, for sure. For sure.
That out there. I'm just kidding. But the thing is, it's I think I talked about it in the comment section last time, is that in Way of X, it's like Resurrection Protocol, the Crucible works for some people. Some people who are actually willing to fight and everything, but it doesn't work for a lot of other ones. And something that Tyler has been mentioning, that, okay, Mal's got a body back. Nobel must have some thoughts about that. And that's the thing is happening. There's like all these, because, and I keep on saying, put these kids in school. Let's put them in school. Let's bring Peter Parker back. Let's bring Kamala Khan. She's not doing much these days. Bring them all as teacher and then teach them. I don't know. Keep them busy, because now we have one just outright stayed up and left. One of them took a bullet to their head. One of them is stealing. I'm gonna put Cable in like New Mutants, fine, and he's stealing from the head, and then these kids are willing to put themselves in dead bodies. Like, how gross and disgusting is that? And then and they're saying it as if this is the most normal thing in the world. Like, hey, I need your help to kind of get them. And then, and then I actually extremely love the way them has been like kind of put in like a bold twice, so Amahl says them, so obviously he means the older mutants or them, like the councils, and then they don't care about us, and also another thing is like there's a division that's happening between the youths and the old generation who are controlling everything. And then Scout also uses the word them with a bold, and she's also talking about another group, I think she's talking about humans or whoever made them to feel like they are less than. And that conversation was like extremely, very like punched, it really like had a lot. And then also Laura's not back yet, so she's
so this happened before X-Men 18 and 19.
But the thing is that the fact that she has no wish to clean the room, that's saying something. That is actually,
she's kind of like depressed.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. She's this little girl who is like probably 9 or 10, and she's not cleaning. She's not cleaning her house. She's not. She has no. She's like, I'll get to it, And then then her friend just walked around and was like, oh, you're human passing, and it's like you don't know her experience, how she's feeling about all of this. I mean, I don't know, the whole thing. I just love that. These little moments were just packed in like these two scenes. So it's just, I was blown away. And anytime, but then again, anytime you put honey badgers, 5 out of 5.
And Jonathan. I don't know if it is Ayala script or it is Riz own drawing, but I love how Jonathan's facial expression and reaction sort of mirrored honey badgers. Like he went from like suspicious to like angry, and then at the end when Eno left, he's like looking at honey badger lovingly. It's like, oh, don't be sad.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, don't be sad. Well, and then he actually, that's his characteristics anyway. From before, he's always kind of following honey badgers and expression and stuff. So I'm like, at least there's honey badger. But I'm like, oh, where's Dakin? Where's why Dakin hasn't told him, to come stay with us in the boneyard? Laura's
because he's with Aurora.
Yeah, he's busy following Aurora around.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just it's I'm concerned for Honey Badger. Well, Laura's back, so
yeah.
Well, we get
she's
one
with X-Men now.
Yeah, but that might mean that Honey Badger starts popping up in X-Men. Who knows, right? So we get one last scene here, and it's a pretty important one. And I really think Ayla did a pretty clever thing here, which is that there's been this white rabbit that's clearly a manifestation of Dani's powers that they've been following, and we all are like, tee-hee-hee, White Rabbit, Alice in Wonderland, etc. But Dani's power is such that she manifests what people want to see the most. And we kind of just assumed it's because they wanted a guide, and so she would manifest a guide. But that's not quite how her power usually gets interpreted. And so here we have this final revelation where Xi'an is saying, wow, you know what? I think actually that rabbit represents my brother's consciousness, which I've absorbed a very long time ago because it represents a shared love of fairy tales that we had. And she wants to go through the Crucible, not because of her leg, which many X-Men fans would have been like, oh, doesn't she want to have a biological leg back instead of that, cyborg leg that she's got, but because she feels like perhaps she is two people in one brain right now. And if she were to go through the Crucible and be reincarnated, that her brother would get to go back to his own body in a very similar way to how Malice got her own body back and Excalibur. Tyler, you have experience with these older stories and know about her brother. And Fariha, you've read a little bit about Xi'an more recently in your read of Astonishing X-Men. So Tyler, and then Fariha, what did you think about this kind of shocking last minute turn of events?
I mean, it is really, like you said, it's shocking. And it is also, like you said, it's clever.
It's very clever.
Yeah, I mean, it tracks, right? Because I think Xi'an's very first appearance was when she absorbed her brother into her. And then that his brother came back a little bit later on in the very most recent Dead Souls, New Mutants Dead Souls series. And I think those were like the two real Tran appearances, right? Because in between, I know Xi'an has always mentioned him, but he did not surface. He did not manifest as a real person or as a consciousness inside her. So yeah, I mean, this is kind of a deep cut and very, very clever. And then asking Dani now to become, to be the one that kills her, then, that will, create create the conflict on Cosma side, because Cosma also asked Dani to be, to be her opponent in Crucible, but
it's
Dani's
not really meant for either of them in a way.
Yeah. So the current Crucible does not really allow these things. These two situations. So I'm interested to see what Dani says.
Fariha, what about you?
I mean, I actually, when I saw her, and because I read Astonishing New Mutant, Astonishing X-Men, I was like, where's her human brothers and sisters? Where are they?
Oh, the little ones.
The little ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, where are they? And then the thing is, like she does not have very good record in the sibling department. So so I was like, okay. And she does talk about Tran a lot. So I think for me, it's more interesting to see that, okay, where does that go? Because that's something that happened so long ago, and she's just been holding on to it and just carrying this. It would be kind of good to see a end of that. Like, however form that is, and I also thought the same thing about Dani being asked, first of all, I think Dani's gonna be like, why is everyone asking me? And then second thing, Cosmo is like, wait, you went for her, not understanding what they have gone through, how their history and everything. And also another example of Crucible's not the place for this. Because if she's walking around with 2 mutants in her head, and given that their whole thing is make more mutant, they should separate them straight away. Because that's like 1 free mutant just there. It's just a one. You get 2 for 1. Just get that. But I don't want to also leave without talking about the data page, though.
Okay, our James Proudstar journaling page.
Yeah, James Proudstar journaling page, because the thing is, we were talking about how stories and using a good usage of data page. There's this use the data page so well to talk about
other stories.
Other stories that
Warlock
are happening.
And Cypher and Bay.
Yeah.
So
and that blew me away, because it's like, there's Warlock is following everyone. He's trying to find a new host. That is scary. Okay.
New best friend.
New best friend. New best friend or host, however way he says it. Or how does he say it? Friend.
Self-friend.
Self-friend. Yeah, self-friend. And then he's actually following, trying to get, what you call it? Imitate others and stuff like that. I'm like, and it was a good use of a story data page to tell that, instead of kind of creating other things and stuff like that. But the one that made me laugh in a very sad way, because it was very sad that James he says that Wolverine once told me that of all the people who threw him in fastball special, I was the most mindful of his body, and that I could toss him anytime. It's funny, but also so sad.
The whole Warpath and Wolverine tossing together comment just made me laugh.
Because the thing is, Wolverine always talks about how people don't understand that because he can heal, that he still feels pain. That is one of his running thing. So the fact that he actually said that, and he's so gruff, he wouldn't say this thing. It just made it all so sad. And I actually wanted to go back in the X-Force. I'm like, did they ever do that in when they were in X-Force together? I think there was.
I think they did.
It was just, a
fastball special, but
it was just so sad.
Well, the other thing also is that I think through just this data page, Ayala basically pinpoints the characteristics of Warpath. So basically, Warpath is someone who acts and being stuck on Krakoa, not being able to confront anything and just observes and teach things sort of frustrates him, and this is pretty thoughtful description of Warpath, and the fact that he's aware of it also shows that he's growing, because like if you're not aware of it, you're like, oh, I'm just angry all the time without being self-aware of like why I'm angry. Here he's actually pretty, Warpath is actually pretty thoughtful about what's happening.
And I think like his brother is also someone like he's not going to try to bring his brother back because death means completely different to them. Like, so I have a feeling that he's also very frustrated about that too, that mutants now can come back, but he's so scared to bring his brother back because he has no idea how he's going to react. And there was like a whole story about that in like, in Necrosha and all of that they had gone through. So I think like his frustration is also manifesting in that too, that he cannot be together with his family because of how he and his culture sees death.
Look at you, just bring all the deep cuts into our discussion now.
I think all of that goes to show that even if only 1/3 of the panel was a little bit soft on this issue, and 2/3 of us were pretty excited about it. There's so much to come in this title. Like, I'm fascinated to see what the next steps of all these plots are. I'm fascinated to see how this interacts with the gala. There's just a series of unexploded bombs waiting for pretty much every member of this cast, and it's definitely a book that I feel like has the most forward momentum out of the line right now, which is really exciting to me, because like it's going to take many issues to get to all these things, and I'm ready to buy and read them. So and
Jamie creating random stuff. Like Jamie is creating Avalon gates in Otherworld right now, basically. It's like a lot of things is happening here. I just think it's like really interesting.
Well, that is all that we have to say about New Mutants number 17. If you want to see us discuss other issues of the week or of past weeks, just check out other shows on the channel, because we talk about every X-Men comic book. And why do we do that, Fariha?
X-Men is better when it's read together.
And I definitely felt that today, as I always do, because I came in feeling a little bit neutral, and I'm leaving with some positive thoughts. And that's why it's great to talk about X-Men with friends. So on the behalf of myself, Tyler, and Fariha, thank you so much for being a part of This Week in X. And until we get to talk to you again, please be well.
Bye.
Bye.